Next menu is engage menu. Right, that engage menu would be number 3. Engage. So under the engage menu, you have several commands. You have hold fire. Okay, first command is open fire. That is the default mode that the AI is in, unless there is some other function given, like a waypoint to start off with that puts you in the stealth mode or combat mode or whatever. A waypoint that basically tells you not to hold fire. This is always going to be the default mode the AI will be in. Essentially, open fire means if they see an enemy target and they are within range and can fire at it, meaning they have ammunition, they will open fire automatically at it. Without me telling them to, they will engage enemies, is basically what open fire is. Hold fire is the exact opposite. And when you tell them to hold fire, you'll see under their pictures a line gets across, a big red box and a line goes across them, meaning they're in the hold fire status. Essentially, I can sneak around. Hold fire is useful for if you want to maintain the element of surprise, and hold fire does not work if you're up close to the enemy. It only works from far away. Say 500 meters away, it's good to use. This is great for stealth type of missions where you need to sneak around, or if you don't want to give away your position by your AI shooting at stuff. Essentially, hold fire is exactly that. They will not fire. I will not say they will never fire, because if there is an immediate threat to them, say an enemy unit 50 meters to 100 meters away, and the enemy is engaging them, they will break that hold fire command in the interest of their own self-preservation, and they will fire at that enemy. So the hold fire command doesn't mean they will never fire. It means they will not fire unless there is an immediate threat to their life. I don't know if it's just individually to their life or to the whole group, the group's preservation, or to the individual AI soldier. I do believe, however, it is to just the individual AI soldier in the group. Okay, so the hold fire command, basically we've gone through that. The next command, which was fire, essentially the fire command, which I demonstrated earlier because I wanted to show the engage menu. The fire command can be used in conjunction with the hold fire command. Essentially what happens is, if they are under a hold fire status and I tell them to target something, they will focus on that target that I have assigned to them. However, they will not fire at it yet, and they will not fire at any other targets in the area. Under the hold fire status, what will happen is, if I give them a target and they're under hold fire, and then I subsequently tell them to fire, if I tell them to fire, what will happen is they will not break their hold fire status in terms of, in general, firing at any enemy in the area. They will break it only for that one target that I have specified for them to break it to. Essentially, if I give them a target and then I tell them to fire, and they were already in a hold fire status, they will then fire at the target I have assigned to them. Once they are done engaging that target, they will then hold fire again. They will return to that status of holding fire. Essentially, they will fire at the target only that I specified, and they will not fire at anything else. That is what that does. So moving on, and you know, you can put your cursor over one of these guys, and you can tell them to hold fire and stuff just like that. You know, I can put the cursor over and I can tell them. Default, of course, is to select the unit. When you put your cursor over them, the context command goes to select unit 3 only. So I select that unit only. But also you can tell unit 3 to open fire. and you can tell Unit 3 to stop. Actually, you will tell 3. Oh, okay, I understand why it's doing that, because I told number 2 and number 4 to stop. I'm telling number 3 to stop. It tells the whole group to stop anyway, so number 3 would just be telling the whole group to stop. So now if I come here and I tell number 3 to stop, oh, that's weird. It tells everyone to stop. So I came here and I told 3 to hold. Everything seems to work except for telling him to stop, because it tells the whole group to stop, which is strange. Okay, but anyways, so for the group, yeah, you don't get those for the group, but you do get them if you hover over a unit. You can tell him to hold fire or something. You do. Oh, actually, you do get them for the group. I'm sorry. You can tell the groups to stop. If you scroll down a little bit, you can tell them to open fire. And then you can tell them to regroup. Alright, so that's a quick way of commanding them, and a less advanced way. Basically, the most used commands they put there, so you can have a quicker way of commanding the AI. Alright, back to the engage menu. The next function is engage. Engage will disengage. Okay, so engage essentially is their default that they're in. Basically, while they are in formation with me, they will fire at any enemy units, but still maintain formation with me, is what that is. And then we'll engage enemies that are more of a threat to the group than, say, farther away. So engage at will essentially is they will break formation to engage a target, and they'll do it by their whim, by their own self. So what they will do is they'll break formation, and they'll go and I mean, they will not break formation as in they will not follow you anymore, but they will break formation in order to engage a target, to get a better view of the target, better angle of attack, angle to attack from to a target, what have you. They'll go and do that, and they'll set their own targets and do it. Essentially, they'll be autonomous when they're firing at stuff. They will prioritize their own target. They will not each fire at the same target normally, unless there's only one target in view. They will each assign themselves a particular target, depending on, I guess, what role they are. Like a machine gunner will probably take longer range targets, and a rifleman will take shorter range targets. Okay, so engage at will is that. The next is disengage. Essentially, what disengage does is the opposite of engage. They will remain in formation, however, they will not target anything. They will not fire at anything, or they will not essentially select their own targets and fire stuff. They will basically need you to find targets to them to engage. So disengage, probably best way to put it is it takes the brain off the AI in a combat situation, and you have to tell them and micromanage them to fire at stuff. Disengage is good if you want to retreat. Not like retreat like the French, but retreat as in like do a tactical retreat to a better position to, say, put up a better fight. Say there's more cover somewhere else, and you want to move quickly. Just another thing, when you're moving, there's different speeds and combat statuses that you can move at, and when you want to get to cover, you generally want to do it as quickly as possible, because if you're not in a covered, if you're not in a position that offers cover right then and there at that moment, which really you should have been if you're in a combat situation, then you want to get to cover as quickly and as fast as possible, because you are essentially just a sitting duck for the enemy to engage you. Right, so moving on, we will go to engage menu, and the next command is scan horizon. Essentially what scan horizon will do is instead of the AI just basically focusing on a field of view of just where the group is directed to, like if I move forward and I stop, the AI will just look in front of me. Granted, because of our formation, each AI has a certain field of cover. Each individual AI has a certain field of view, which overall makes up for the group's field of view. So the group's field of view right now is mainly to the front and to a 45-degree angle to the left and to the right. It's generally the field of view for our group right now. So if any target showed up around there, we'd be able to engage and identify them and engage them if need be. Scan horizon. What scan horizon does is tell the AI to look 360 degrees around us. And that is for it is for whoever I select to scan horizon. If I tell 2 to scan horizon, everybody else in the group will continue looking where they're looking. As you can see, number 2, who's right here, he is kind of like panning around and looking at different places around us. So he's just looking around 360 degrees. He's basically, best way to put it is he has his head on a swivel. Although his whole body is moving, but yeah, that's the essential idea of it, is to keep your head on a swivel. If I tell, let's see how I can. I think no target is how you tell him to return to looking at the. Yeah, okay. No target brings him back to looking at. Yeah, in the target menu, if you tell him no target, it will bring him back to looking at his default position in the wedge formation. So I'll go to the group now and tell them to scan horizon. And if you notice, everybody who is the AI in my group, meaning not me, I'm not looking around, but everyone who is the AI is now looking around. Now, as you notice, they're not all looking around at the same time. They're all covering different positions at different times. Although they are, like, this guy is looking at this angle, and this guy is now looking here, and they're all covering different sectors at different periods. So they're looking around. It's not the point is, it's not in unison, is what I was trying to make. So you have more coverage. Because if it was unison, then you'd be missing a area. If everyone is looking, if everyone is looking in this direction, then you're going to miss an enemy who's creeping up on you over here, or on patrol over here. That's the whole point of that. All right, so moving on, go ahead and tell them to no target again. Oops, didn't have them selected. No target. So they'll go back to looking in their default positions for the wedge formation, which they are. So now I'll tell them to watch direction. Watch direction is essentially you give them a cardinal direction to look at. And all of them in unison will be looking at that target direction. So that is useful, say, if I know the enemy is going to be approaching from the north, from intelligence reports, and I'll tell them, hey, enemy is going to come from the north. Now, I need my compass right now to see what direction I'm facing. Okay, I am facing to the north right now. All right, so for demonstration purposes, enemy is going to come from the east. Okay, so I'm going to tell them to look to, and make sure I'm in this view so you can see what they react to. I'm going to tell them to watch direction east. All of them in unison are watching the east right now, and they're maintaining formation. If I move around, they'll move with me. They won't look at that location while we're moving, but once they stop moving, they'll look back at that location as soon as they get into the formation. Oh, I'm mistaken. I forgot to point myself this way. Okay, so now that I've set the group's orientation this way, you can see they're in a wedge, but in the wedge, they're not facing towards the north, which is where I'm facing. They're facing towards the east, all of them right now. See? And essentially, you can tell them to face north, northeast, east, southeast, basically all the different cardinal directions within. So you can tell them to face the main cardinal directions are north, south, east, and west, and in between. So northeast, south, southeast, southwest, so on and so forth. It's pretty useful. And the good way to finding out how to tell them to face would be pressing K. These are all the default controls I have from BIS. Pressing K and then telling them to face a direction. And the way you do it is the little line to the top of the compass that you see is where you're facing. And if you press K 2 times, it will keep the compass on the screen without you holding down the K button. So as you can see, I'm facing to the north right now. I'm facing the northeast, the east, southeast, south, southwest, west, northwest, and back to north. But that's basically the quadrants that the AI can look. The AI can look like this, and they have the same field of view that you have as well. So they'll look to the north, the northeast, the east. It's just different pieces of the pie. And if you think of 360 degree, if you think of it like a pizza or a pie, then you can tell them to look at different parts of the pie or the pizza, if you will. That's a good way of thinking about it sometimes. Right, so double tap K again to get rid of the compass. Okay, so next thing is suppressive fire. Suppressive fire I can't really show you right now, but I can talk about it a little bit. I have to be actually engaged by an enemy force to show you what the suppressive fire command does. Suppressive fire essentially is used for... Now, most people think, oh, it's only for the machine gunners and stuff, but actually it's for every single unit that you have under your command. The rifleman will provide suppressive fire. Essentially, they will be less conservative with their ammo consumption and their aim, and they will fire at, if for instance an enemy unit popped out of this hangar, if you follow where my cursor is, if an enemy unit ran out of this hangar and they detected him and started firing at him, and then he ran back in here, and he's like hiding around this corner here or something. He's hiding inside the hangar now. He just popped out, took some pop shots at me and my team, and then he ran back into this hangar. Essentially, any obstacle, but I'm using this hangar as an example. Basically, I can tell the AI suppressive fire, and what happens is the AI becomes less liberal, more liberal with their use of ammunition and less conservative. Basically, they will open up on the guy, even though they can't see him. They'll know where his last position was, and they'll open up on the guy and make him wish he didn't pop his head out on us. So that's the idea behind that. I think what I can do to demonstrate that actually is maybe abort. I'll maybe have an enemy dude come out of there to see if they can I can simulate that. First, I will play as an enemy dude myself, just to show you how the AI will react to you popping out of this hangar. Oh, I forgot, the AI has to be orientated to around the direction where... Okay, they kind of are. They'll be able to see me if I pop out. Okay, so I'm in this hangar. As you can see, I'm a rather charming looking enemy insurgent force dude. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop out of this hangar and take a few pop shots at him. Alright, so obviously they know I'm here. They haven't started firing at me yet. Okay, they've started firing at me now. And they hit me. You can see they're firing at where I popped out at. They're not really laying down suppressive fire, but they're basically firing a little conservatively at where my last position was. And you can see the bullet holes actually, the bullet impacts. They're basically hitting right where that corner is where I came out of. I am injured actually right now. The AI are actually pretty good shots if they see you. So what I'll go ahead and do now is, that door doesn't open. Unfortunately, I kind of put myself in kind of a pickle because that's the only entrance and exit I have. So I'll kind of like run away. Obviously, their attention is towards me. See, as soon as I popped out of there, uh, as soon as I popped out of that hangar, they started being a little less liberal, or sorry, conservative with their weapons fire. They started to open up on me pretty good. And as you can hear, they're still shooting at me at where my last known position is. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to pop out of this corner here and take some pot shots at them, and you'll see them open up on me over here instead of at the hangar. So for here, I gotta actually kind of, okay, see, they're over there. Oh, I wonder if they see me. Oh yeah, they see me. You can hear the rounds passing by me. It seems like they give a more expedited response with their firepower if they're threatened. So if I actually pop out and start shooting at them, versus if they see me, they'll actually unload more onto me if I'm starting to shoot at them. So I'll come out here and I'll start shooting at them. And I gotta reload, so I'll pop back in here to reload. And it seems to me like they are, okay, now you hear them opening up. Oh, you hear mainly the automatic rifleman is who I'm really waiting for to open up on me. So I'll pop out of here. I'm not really aiming to hit them. I'm just, you know, kind of firing in their general location. Kind of strange, actually, that I'm standing right here. Okay, the automatic rifleman's engaging me. Alright, I'm going to change my position because they know where I'm at. I don't really hear too much of them firing at me, so I'm concerned, actually, that they're trying to flank me with another element. They could have split it up into two groups of 2 men, and one of them are trying to flank me. That's what I think. You can actually hear some of them shooting, but I don't really hear too much of that firepower coming down on me. So I'm a little bit concerned that there's another. Okay, actually now they without even me shooting at them, they are firing at me. So they're pretty alert right now as to what's going on. I know the general vicinity of where I'm coming out of. So if I even change the, you know, I was near this control tower and I came out of there. They started shooting at me. Let's say if I come up to the top of this control tower and I start shooting at them, how they'll respond. Essentially, I wanted to show you the suppressive fire command, but really it's hard to, because I guess the AI isn't really laying down a lot of suppressive cover on me right now. As you can see, they came closer, actually. I'm going to kill this guy. Okay, I killed that guy. They must be pretty worried right now because I just took down one of their team members. So their urgency, if you will, to fire. Actually, I got a pretty good shot at this guy right now too. I'm wondering where the other ones are at though. I killed this guy too. That guy seemed to be kind of maneuvering to get a better shot at me. In fact, to kind of take me by surprise. And the other guy seemed to be farther away. I don't know where the other guys are, to be honest. Kind of hard for me to find out where they're at. It's coming from my right, but I don't know where they're at. Maybe by that Land Rover. Oh yeah, okay, I see one of them. It's by the Land Rover, by the front wheel. I'm really, really badly hit right now. They've hit me a few times. And also, the other thing is when I'm under fire like this, my stamina level goes up also. If I'm hit in the arm, I'm hurt. But my stamina level also gets affected when they're... Okay, they just killed me. Alright, so... what I'm going to do to show the suppressive fire command is essentially... I wanted to show you from the perspective of being the enemy, but it didn't really work out the way I intended it to. So what I'll do is I'll give him a waypoint. I'll give him 2 waypoints, in fact, and I'll make him. What I'd like to do is using Radio Alpha and Radio Bravo, have him cycle between these 2 waypoints. But I have a feeling that I really can't do that with a waypoint alone. So what I can do, I'm trying to use no scripting whatsoever when I'm doing this. What I can, and I'm going to tell this guy not to fire, because essentially he's just going to be a target for me. So on this first waypoint, I'm going to tell him to combat mode, never fire. Okay. So what I need to do now is actually put a trigger, 2 different triggers, really, and synchronize them with these waypoints. So on Radio Alpha, that waypoint will be triggered, and on Radio Bravo, that waypoint will be triggered. So essentially, he should pop out and pop back in. I may have to do this a few times. Activation Radio Alpha. Okay. And then activation Radio Bravo. So whenever I use Radio Alpha and Radio Bravo, it should cycle the waypoints for this guy. The only thing I wish I could do is duplicate this waypoints to kind of like respawn the waypoint, if you will. So I could use Radio Alpha several times and Radio Bravo several times. And actually, maybe I can. It says once, I can put it repeatedly. Maybe that might do it. So activation once and repeatedly. Let me see what this says. Timeout, min-max condition on activation. Okay, so effects, trigger. Okay, yeah, these are like effects if you want to have any effects for the thing. Yeah, I don't see anything on the waypoint menu. It has to be through the trigger. That's why the trigger is synchronized to the waypoint. So if all goes well, on Radio Alpha, he should pop out of there. On Radio Bravo, he should pop back in. So, alright. Essentially, I'm leaving everything default. If you start the game... Oh, shit. He didn't actually do that. Well, my team killed him kind of quick. That was kind of not intended, actually. I think what I'll have to do is put another waypoint for him. And put this waypoint, actually, the first waypoint, and make him combat mode, never fire. Right. Essentially what happens is I kind of goofed. What should happen is after he goes, he will actually go to this waypoint, but what will happen is he will wait for this trigger to be activated for him to go to the next waypoint. I don't want him to go to this waypoint yet. So what I need to do is I could change the synchronization of all of these. I think that should work. Essentially, he'll come here automatically. And then when I tell the trigger to activate using the Radio Alpha, he'll come over here. Then using the Radio Bravo, he'll come over here. Actually, this is kind of too far out. Oops. Desynchronized that by accident. Okay, this was kind of too far out. So I'll move it a little bit closer to the entrance. Alright, so if all goes well, he should stay in that hangar until I tell him to come out. You see, I'm trying to reveal a target. There's no target right there because he's obscured by the hangar. So what I will do is, yeah, I want to move a little bit away from that Land Rover. Alright. What I shall do now is, using Radio Bravo, I'm sorry, Radio Alpha, he should run out. Okay, there, he ran out. He's identified, and he's going to run back in. Damn, he actually didn't. It seemed like he got stuck somewhere running in there. Right, so, okay, next thing is where this thing says house, I need to actually place this waypoint on top of that and tell him a position to move in the house. So, waypoint, okay, house, move, that's the last waypoint. Okay, house position. I'm not really sure what all the positions are. Let's try position 10. I basically just want him to go inside this building. As you can see, some of this error stuff is trial and error, and it's sometimes time consuming, but end result is usually worth it. So again, I'll go ahead and do radio alpha, and then radio bravo as soon as I see him and I identify him. There he is. There you go, he ran in. Okay, now I'm going to go tell him to suppressive fire. Essentially what they should do is open up on the last position that he was seen at. Even though they don't see him. Okay, that's what they're doing. My rifleman has opened up on him. The other guy, the number 4, has opened up. I don't know why the automatic rifleman... Oh, there he goes. So, you've seen suppressive firing work now. Basically, the enemy popped out. I made it so he didn't shoot at us, but he would take some pop shots at us, and then he would essentially run back into cover. What the suppressive fire command does is basically tell the AI that the last position that we saw that enemy, I want you to shoot at that area in general, versus, say, shooting at the individual target. Right now, the guy isn't in our line of sight. He's inside that hangar. I know that for a fact because I made the mission. But because we knew the last position we saw him at, which it's showing me, or actually that might be him, but it's showing me the last position he was at, they'll fire at it. So I can tell them again, suppressive fire. And I think they'll open up again on it. Yeah, they will. Okay. So suppressive fire comes in handy when you want to pin the enemy down. So right now, basically, there's only one entrance and exit to this building, and he's pinned down. If he comes out, he's ours, basically. And we're opening up on him. The only detriment to suppressive fire is you're using up ammunition against an area versus against a specific target. And it's more of a psychological effect, really, and a stamina reducing effect than... I mean, if this guy really comes under fire from us, you'll see it. I'll tell them all to hold fire. I will show you what suppressive fire, the effect of it has when the enemy is in plain sight of us. He is not at cover. We know exactly where he's at, because that's another way suppressive fire has a good effect. So if all goes well, I should, when I use radio alpha, have the AI run back out. And I don't know exactly what position he is in that hangar. Okay, I think probably what happened was the waypoints got erased after the triggers were activated. So what I'll have to do is just restart the mission. But, and this is actually a really good in-depth look at how ARMA 2 works. I have to admit, the developers did a really good job with this game. The only issue is sometimes some pathfinding issues with the AI and some rather small intelligence issues. You know, like before, I went through this rather large gap in this hole here, and that's a pathfinding issue. But I mean, the AI sometimes has their day and sometimes it doesn't. And also the other thing is the AI computations is based off of the CPU. So in large-scale battles, the CPU is under a lot of stress because you have a lot of AI running around. So you might see them not be as apt to do things like they've exhibited in this guide, because it's only pretty much 4 people. I don't have a whole lot of AI strewn across the map. All right, so what I will do is command them to hold fire, and I will tell our enemy to pop out, and he won't shoot at us because I specifically gave him a never fire on his waypoint. And my guy should not shoot at him because he's not firing at us, so he's not a threat. So if I identify him as an enemy, well, they are reacting to him. See, okay, they're not shooting at him. I have identified an enemy. They're not shooting at him because he's not determined to be an immediate threat. Since he's not firing at us, I think mainly because he's not firing at us, because he's only 100 meters away. But you do see their attention has turned towards them, and one of them indicated, okay, number 3 indicated that he has eyes on target, which means basically that he is ready to fire at that enemy. Number 3, yeah, he just said he's ready to fire. So what I'm going to tell them to do, number 2 for some reason has taken himself off of hold fire, which is not what I want him to do. So number 2, 3, 2, hold fire. Oh, I think he was getting ready to engage with his grenade launcher, because it seems like... Right, alright, anyways, what I wanted to show you was the effectiveness of suppressive fire against this individual enemy that I have placed here. Okay, so what I will do is tell them suppressive fire. I don't know if they will fire after I gave them that command or not. Okay, it seems like they will not. So I have to actually order them to open fire. I have to order them to open fire on the target. What I will do is tell them to suppress fire one more time, and I will tell them to open fire. Right. Oh, as you can see, the automatic rifleman pretty much made short work of that guy. For a better test of how suppressive fire works, actually, I'll give this guy a group. Let's make like maybe, I don't know, I'll just put a bunch of people down there. Opt for take a standing militia. Right, so we'll give them, I don't know, a few people, so you can see how that works. Right, so I've given him quite a few people in his group, so when they pop out, there's going to be a whole group of soldiers, and I think I should move this out just a tad bit. Alright, so now the idea is... Alright, so I had to give my troops at the start of this demonstration a hold fire because they kept engaging the enemy inside that hangar. Because it's such a large group, there's some people who are outside the hangar and they spot them. So what I'm going to do is, for demonstration purposes, show you what happens when the suppressive fire command is not used, and then I will use the suppressive fire command and show you how the friendly AI in my team respond to the enemy threat. Alright, so using radio alpha, I'm going to go ahead and tell the squad that is an enemy to pop out, and they won't shoot at us. Put them at never fire. Another important thing you want to make sure you do is not get in the way of your friendly AI when they're firing, because essentially they will fire at you. Unintentionally, of course, but they will open up on these guys, and when they open up on these guys, you don't want to be in or near, you don't want to be in between your AI and these guys. So what I'm going to go ahead and do now is order my AI to open fire, and they will open fire on the enemy. And I'm not going to fire, but you'll see how the AI reacts on my team. So, all 3 open fire. So, open fire. They start opening fire, basically. And I can't really say they're conservative with their fire that they're laying down, but they are kind of picking targets out one by one. So essentially, they're picking enemies off one by one. Um, I think probably because the range the enemy is to us, they're a little bit more uh, liberal with their use of use of ammunition than if they were farther away. But the idea is like they're picking off targets one by one versus say firing into a general area and hitting targets. So what I'll go ahead and do now is restart the scenario. And go ahead and do alpha, or yeah, alpha. And then what I will do is tell them suppressive fire this time. So wait for the AI to get out of the hangar. Now, I know you guys can't hear my game. It's because I got the sound options mixed up, but it's alright because you don't really need to hear what's going on in the game. You can hear my commentary, and it basically outlines everything, and you can see what's going on in the game. So, alright, what I'm going to go ahead and do now is order the AI to suppressive fire that enemy. So, I'll first tell them to open up. I told them suppressive fire just now. To be honest, I don't really notice much of a difference, so I think what I'm going to do is restart. They're expecting to see and hear more weapons fire from my team. So what I will do is this time tell them fire instead of open fire. Or maybe give the suppressive fire command first. So I'll tell them all to suppressive fire that enemy, and then I'll tell them to open fire. So just waiting for the enemy to come out. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and tell them suppressive fire. And I'm going to tell them to open fire now. Actually, I think one possibility is that automatically AI at this kind of engagement range will automatically attempt to suppress the enemy without actually being told to perform suppressive fire command. That might be what's going on. But the other test I'm going to do is I'm going to tell them to go back in the hangar. I don't know why my picture still shows the Like my picture says I'm holding fire. Maybe if I fire around. No. That's weird. Alright, I'm going to restart the scenario. This time I will tell enemy to go back into hiding once they pop out. I'll tell the enemy to go back into the hangar. And a good majority will go back into the hangar. But some of them, as you can see, because of the formation the enemy is in, they'll still be out of the hangar. But all right, so go ahead and give a radio Bravo for them to go back into the hangar, which they're doing. And now what I'll do is I'll tell my AI to open up on them, and then I'll tell them to suppress fire as soon as they all go into that hangar. I think that's good enough. All right, open fire and suppressive fire. So they're firing whereabouts that they went into hiding, basically. The point where my AI lost line of sight with them, with the enemy force, is essentially where my AI is firing. And after a while, they'll stop firing. They've already stopped firing because they don't see them popping out anymore. But if they do stop firing, you can tell them, hey, I want more fire laid down on that area. So you can tell them, again, that's a suppressive fire command, and they will continue shooting at that area. So they just started opening up on that area again. So actually, suppressive fire command comes in handy sometimes. So I think that's all of the engagement commands that I've gone over. So that finishes the engagement menu.